Right, so, like I said, thank you very much for coming on St Patrick's Day. I know you'd probably rather be at the pub, but time for that later. First of all, I'd like to introduce the team here. I'm Tom, I'm the store manager. I've got Ellie here, my assistant manager. Then we've got Jim, who's a resident Japan specialist, lived there for 8 years. Rachel at the back's probably served you a drink or two. We've got Sophie, also at the bar. Jo, who isn't here this evening, she's our Latin America expert. And then Neil, our returning hero there at the back, worked for STA for 12 years, so he's anyone that you might already recognise him. So about tonight, obviously you're all here for one reason. You want to get out of England for whether it be a couple of weeks or a year, however long, and we're here basically to provide you with some sort of ideas and inspiration about where we've been and what sort of experiences you could have whilst you're away, and basically to facilitate your booking experience and everything whilst beforehand and also whilst you're away. Why STA travel? I mean, obviously you guys probably do know a little bit about STA travel, but we're a global company. We've been around for 35 years now. We've got branches all over the world, so basically we're a global company. So if you do ever get unstuck whilst you're away, then you've got plenty of help either here back in the UK, or you can pop in to an STA travel wherever you are, apart from obviously certain places that there aren't any. But competitive prices, we'll touch on that later on with our price beat guarantee. Flexibility, flexibility is an important thing whilst you're travelling. Plans change, so we try as much as we can, work with the airlines and try and get you flexible tickets. Again, we'll touch on that later, but flexibility is key for us, and it's somewhere we're trying to move forward with that. And obviously exclusive products. We've got some amazing suppliers that you'll hear from later that we book, and they do have fantastic products. Well, see, these are these sort of questions that we ask when you guys come in and sit down. Very key. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different plans. So, how long you're going for? When do you want to go? Obviously, where do you want to go? That's probably the main thing. Budget-wise, where you like if you're travelling with people or on your own. Everyone is different. Everyone has different plans. And these are sort of questions you need to ask yourself, whilst you're planning, and then when you come in, no matter what you're doing, then we can help you out with that. So obviously, most of us, unfortunately, we have to work, so we can often only get a couple of weeks off work. But there are so many things you can do if you've just got a couple of weeks. You can hire a camper van in the US. LA up to San Francisco, beautiful drive. Volunteer with pandas in China, in Chengdu. Diving in Australia, go to Peru and trek Machu Picchu to the Inca Trail. Couple of weeks off work, you can do all of these. It does. If you don't have more than a couple of weeks, it's not a big deal. These are all the fantastic things you can do. If you've got a few months, obviously you can do a lot more. This is a standard sort of an idea of a trip. You've all got your, hopefully you've all got brochures in front of you. That's got ideas on the flights that you can do, and this is a popular option. Basically, we work with the airlines to try and get the lowest prices, flexibility, but also to build in stopovers. So, for example, you fly out to Hong Kong via Delhi and have a stop in Delhi, go and see the Taj Mahal, whatever else you want to do in India. Hop down to Hanoi, overland down to Ho Chi Minh, so travel down the coast of Vietnam, fly across to Bangkok, and then do a couple of weeks or however long from Bangkok to Kuala Lumpur, and then get a flight home with Sri Lankan Airlines, who stop in Colombo. So we use their hubs of the airlines, where basically give you a free stop. So there's lots of possibilities for doing that. So this is a classic example of what you could do in a few months. Towards the Americas, you've got flying down to Rio, fly over TAP Portugal, who use Lisbon as their hub. Have a couple of days, stop in Lisbon. Why not? See another country, another city. Then travel overland. There's some fantastic tours that you can do that you'll hear about later, between Rio and Santiago. Fly up to Bogota with a Colombian airline that give you a little stop in Bogota and back down to Lima. You ticked another country off. Travel up overland to Quito. Fly to Havana. Have some fun in Havana. There's plenty to do there. And then hop across to Mexico City and home. Another great example. Or there's going to be some of you here that have got, you know, you lucky guys have got a year or however long. You don't have to come back for anything particular. And this is a very classic, pretty cheap way of getting around the world. So fly out to Australia with a stop in Thailand. So, you know, if you were going out to work in Australia or just to visit, then you've got to stop somewhere. It's a long flight, so why not make it Thailand, for example? But there's, you know, you could do Singapore, Hong Kong, then hop across to New Zealand, however long you want there. New Zealand up to LA, you can either fly direct or, for the same sort of cost, stop in Fiji and have a couple of weeks in Fiji. It's really not going to add much to your flight, so, you know, 50 quid extra for 2 weeks in Fiji, why not? And then travel across from LA to New York. Get, you know, hire a car, camper van, travel across, and then fly back home. You know, that would be a 12-month ticket. You could do that. Perfect. Really cheap as well. That sort of route. I mean, what we really want, what we get excited with, is when people come in and have this really crazy route that we've got to put together for you. You know, the wackier the better, really. If you've got 12 stops that you really want to put in, we can build that. Obviously, it's all price dependent, so the more you put in, the more it generally costs, but we'll try and work out the cheapest way, the easiest way to put that together for you. So it's really, you know, you guys come in, sit down with us, tell us what you want, and we will put something together for you. We've all travelled, we've done exactly the same process. We've come into STA, we've all booked with STA Travel before working here. And, you know, we try and make your experience as, you know, enjoyable and exciting as possible. Even better than that, we've got, I don't know if you know about the £49 deposit that you can secure your flights for. So if you've got a massive round-the-world, you know, £2 worth of flights, on most of those, or select flights, you can put a £49 deposit down to secure that price. And, you know, if you can put that money down, you book your flights, and then you can save whilst you know you've got those flights sorted. And I touched on it earlier, but we do, like I said, we negotiate with the airlines to try and get the cheapest price, which is how we have a price beat guarantee. So we do guarantee to match, beat any flights that you find, any price that you find online, apart from low-cost carriers, we just don't. But on all main scheduled carriers, we will guarantee to beat whatever you find online. So no, even though we have the flexibility and the deposit, we will always be cheaper than anything else you can find. I'm going to pass you over to Ellie to sort of talk about working as part of your big trip, as she spent a year out in Australia.
Cool, guys. So some of you on your trip might be thinking that you want to work somewhere on your way. So the 4 main places would be the US, Canada, New Zealand and Australia. Like Tom said, I spent a year out in Australia. So for my year, I worked in Sydney for a while. I did some temping in offices, but I also did some fruit picking on the East Coast. So there's lots of a variety of work that you can do. The same in New Zealand. Both Australia and New Zealand don't have any limitations on the jobs that you want to do, as long as you only work for one employer up to 6 months. With Canada and the US, the visas are slightly higher, like harder to get. With Canada, they only bring them out at certain parts of the year. So if you did want to go to Canada or America, you would have to plan that around the times that they bring the visas out. But they're not impossible to get. So if you are thinking of Canada or America or even Australia or New Zealand, we can help you here. With the Australia and the New Zealand, we can help process the actual visas in the branch. With Canada and America, we go through BUNAC. Some of you may have heard of them, some of you may not. With them, they help you. They don't actually process the visa for you, but they help you with the process, so you make sure when the visas are released, you have all the paperwork ready to go, so you don't have any problems and you can get the visas. Some of you thinking maybe not working, but volunteering. These are just a few of the projects that some of the speakers later might be talking about. The most popular one that we do offer is volunteering with elephants in Thailand. You can do this for a week, or you can do it up to 8 weeks. So there's a very versatile amount of time you can do it. This one is based in Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand. It works with elephants that have been beaten or badly used over the past few years, and they help them, feed them, look after them, and make sure they get better health. Carl will be going through a bit more with it later. The other ones that we do have, you can work with children in parts of Asia, South America, and parts of Fiji. You can do conservation, so if you want to work with helping the environment, then you can do that in Fiji, Australia and New Zealand. We do have brochures on volunteering, so if you did think you want to do some volunteering on your trip, then we have a special brochure and one of the staff can help you with later. The next side's about tours. Some of you may want to do a 40, 50-day tour, or some of you may just want to do a 1-day tour across the Great Ocean Road in Australia or down the California coast. The suppliers that will be here in a bit will tell you a bit more about their own tours. For STA, we obviously work in partnership with the suppliers, but we do have smaller tours. The STA work with smaller departments, so if you did want a smaller tour, then we can help you with that as well as a big tour. Your flights don't obviously have to match the tours that you want to do. So if you wanted to do a 3-week tour in Asia, but you want to spend 6 weeks in Asia, your flights can then be into one part and out of another, and for longer than the actual tour. All right, I'm going to pass you over to Jim in a second, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about keeping it flexible.
Thank you. So I guess when you go away for a long time, you don't know how much you're going to like one place. You don't know whether you want to go and stay in Bangkok for a couple of days, whether you can take it as I said right now, whether you can want to be there for a month or so. So there are a number of products and inclusions we can offer that help you make your trip as flexible as possible. I guess the most prominent of these with the flights is what we call the multi-flex pass. Essentially that allows you, and depending on the type of ticket you have, to change the dates that you fly. So you've flown into Bangkok and you've got a flight out from Sydney, from Singapore to Sydney 3 weeks later, and you're in Bangkok, and it's the nicest place in the world, and all you want to do is eat pad thai for the next 3 months. All you do is send us an email to our company, and they will put your flight back to a date that you choose, assuming availability is there. In terms of open dated is a term that we use to define something that doesn't have a definite date. So if you're going up the coast of Australia, you've never been there before, there's all these little towns that have got their own quirky things that you might either like or not. So you've travelled up the coast and you get to Fraser, you get to Harvey Bay. I want to go on Fraser Island. You go up there. You 4x4 across the desert island in the east coast of Australia. You come back, next little town up, you never heard of it before, but you get there and it's the most amazing place in the world. So the thing you had planned on doing next week, you now want to put back for a week. So most of our activities, our bus routes, they're all open dated, and that goes for buses and the rail passes. Similarly with accommodation, you can buy passes that give you at a set price 10, 15, 20 and multiples thereon of accommodation. We've also got a new product which is a flexible camper van pass, where you don't have to decide the dates that you're travelling or using the camper van until you get to the location. So if you go on a year's trip, you need to be somewhat planned, but you don't need to like have it down to the minute detail. You can just have an idea of what you're doing, I think is. And moving on from that, we talk about in addition to the flights and the trips and all the fun things, there's kind of the reality of travelling around the world, of course. Insurance is not the most exciting thing to buy. It's, but it's essential really. You want to be covered for anything that happens to you, or anything that's taken from you, or if any eventuality really. So getting insurance at the time you kind of put all your money down for this huge trip is probably a good thing to think about. It covers you for cancellations and things that you can't predict. Other essentials, we think, a cash card, carrying money around. You're going to 17 different countries, you've got 17 different currencies. We've got one cash card that covers every currency. You load it up with pounds and you get credit card rates, which are good rates for whichever country you happen to be buying stuff in. Visas, get clued up. Not entirely sure what get clued up means, but yeah, be aware of the visa restrictions of wherever you happen to be going. We've got a fair amount of knowledge here about current conditions, but things change. Some countries you're going to need to get a visa and it's going to take you 4 weeks. Some countries you can turn up on the border and you get let in free. Some countries you pay on the border and an extra $5 in that payment gets you through a little bit quicker. Cambodia. Also keeping connected with your friends. We've got worldwide travel SIM cards. We've tried to get the communications as cheap and as reasonable as possible. In most countries, it's free to receive calls. You will pay to make them, and things like text messages and that kind of thing. We've got a reasonable and very clear way of keeping in contact with your family and friends while you're away. Stay healthy, that's an important point. Make sure you get the jab. Some countries now are refusing to let people in if they haven't had the correct inoculations. So as much as we can, we'll help you. We've got a clinic just in there that will stick needles in your arm, as many as you like, for a certain fee. But if you're going to African countries, you're going to have to get yellow fever, for example. And if you're going to some South American countries and you've been to an African country, you're going to have to prove that you've had the yellow fever jab. So there's things to think about before you travel. Move on from that. And the last thing is, presently we have a variety of offers for trying to help you as much as we can get the best price for the things you're likely to be doing wherever you go in the world. We've got work and starter packs. These are usually for Australia and New Zealand in terms of giving you the first week's accommodation, setting you up with a bank account, all the stuff you need, going on a trip around the town you visited. There's often like a lot of people that are in the same boat as you meet up and kind of start your adventure together. Tours at the moment, we've got a variety of tours that 2 or 3 tours get you 15 or 20% off the total. There's, as you see there, there's various, but there's always new things coming out. So whatever's current, we'll try and give you a decent price and make you help you have the time of your life, which is, I guess, why you're going off around the world. That's why I went, and I had the time of my life. That's it. So, is that the end? Yes. I've finished. You've got your big trip brochures, hopefully. Those are ideas. Don't think those are limited by any way. Just make the dream, and then come in here and let us try and interpret that dream into an itinerary that's cool. Yeah, I think I've said enough.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay.
So we're now going to pass you on to our 3 fantastic suppliers. But before we do, does anyone want another drink?
More importantly,
We're going to have a couple of minute break, basically. So if you want another drink or you need the toilet, then feel free.
Cool.